Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
We've located an individual we believe, based on detainee reporting, is bin Laden's courier. He's living in a house in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and we assess that one of the other occupants of the house is UBL.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. Running a little bit late, but on a Monday night, because of, as usual, something like technical difficulties would hold us up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you didn't even give us a countdown of when you were actually going to go live. How dare you?
I didn't know, but I'm hosting this half the show, so I'm in control.
I know, still though, you tricked me.
I know, but are you not going to tell people what's on this week's show then?
No, because this is not normally the preamble. If we were actually properly editing a podcast and stuff like that, this would be like the kind of stuff that we just gone, let's put it as podcast extras or what have you. But because it's live and we can't be bothered to actually go in and edit a podcast, we've never done that in the past, so we're never doing that now. It's just preamble stuff. It's the usual McGubbins.
I think the whole thing of editing it would just turn out to be a massive disaster. It would get to a point where either we would not get anything out at all, or we would be like not just a day late or something like that. We would be a week late.
I don't see the point of editing. I understand there are places out there which would prefer to edit things just to make it feel more tighter, or there are podcasts which don't do it live. They just sort of like, there are a few more now which do it live, but there are ones which prefer to edit what they've got. Whereas with us, we stick to the method we're used to. Do it live, goes out on iTunes, goes out on YouTube, etc. Uncut.
Any mistakes or problems, which there have been over the years.
Yeah, as long as it's not swear words, which has happened twice.
Yeah.
Twice in 7 years is not bad, but that they were both down to clips that we've played, where we didn't actually pinpoint the swear word in the clip. So that's it. We've never swore ourselves. We've gone sort of like 12-ish territory with a capital C a couple of times, but that's about it. So at least we're good on that front.
Yeah. Anyway, enough stalling. What's on this week's show, Stuart?
You need the preamble. As you heard in that clip there, Kathryn Bigelow returns with a new latest film in true story, a very hard-hitting true story as well, with Detroit. And then Steven Soderberg returns to the directing chair after him saying that he wasn't going to direct anymore, and then he decides to go, you know what, I do want to still direct films, with offbeat comedy, Logan Lucky, and then we go back to the sort of drama with hints of comedy with Tom Cruise in it and American Made, and then we'll stick with comedy outright with hints of drama in it with Rough Night.
Yeah, of course we'll have, as usual, some movie news, box office charts, and then after all that, the home release section, which has got a fairly mixed bag this week as well, we could say.
Yeah, we've got true to life drama with the Zookeeper's wife. You'll hear the word drama a lot. And then we've got canine drama with The Dog's Purpose. Then we've got thriller, so not a drama this time, with Unlocked. Then we've got, now, it's supposedly billed as a comedy, a dark comedy, but Andy will get onto that with Unforgettable, and then we'll round things off with a little bit of horror. Adam will get Americanized version of the Japanese Death Note.
I wouldn't say there's anything particularly funny about Unforgettable. Well,
it is still, if you go on IMDb, it's still billed as like a comedy drama
really?
of some sort.
Only because it's maybe... well, I'll get to that when we get to it. I don't want to say anything now.
Yeah.
Anyway, as usual, let's get going now, because we've got you've got news to go through. I don't have any news this week because what happened with this week's show? We were all ready to go, literally ready to go for 9:30, and not kidding. You messaged me, and I messaged you, and I said I'm just about ready to go, and then literally as soon as I did that, my second screen, I have a 2-screen set up on my computer, and it basically went all fritzy, and then and I was literally sat there going, what? And I was trying to figure out what it is, and my second screen is an old TV. This is how old it is. It's not a digital receiver TV. It is analog. That's why it's being used as a computer screen, because it's got the VGA connection thing for a PC. So I had it used to my second screen. So it's probably about 10 years old or something like that. It's done me well, but I think it is actually now completely died. So that's my screen gone, and along with it, my news for this week. So...
Yeah, I should go with the dual screen setup, but the problem I've got is where I'm sitting, my computer is right next to my television. So my television is a 55-inch, and the monitor that I use is a 22-inch Samsung. So it would mean that I would have 55-inch beside me, Hisense one, and a Samsung 22-inch monitor there, and just beside each other. Nah, I think I'll just stick with a single screen. I'm fine with that. News-wise, we'll start off with some sad news, especially if you're a big horror fan like myself. Legendary horror director Tobe Hooper has died at the age of 74, with the causes of it still being unknown. If you don't know who Tobe Hooper is, and a lot of horror fans are probably screaming right now, saying, how can you not know who Tobe Hooper is? And I think you know who Tobe Hooper is.
Yeah, I can mention things like Life Force that he did and stuff like that. You know, he did films far back to the 80s and early in the 80s, but even films 70s. That I've seen, that I'm not a horror fan, but I've seen horror films. You know, some of the ones he's done. I can't remember, but I know I think I've seen like 4 or something on the list of something that he'd done.
Yeah, he did. He was the original director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I haven't seen that. But...
he also did Poltergeist as well. He directed the original and remake of Toolbox Murders, and he was also responsible for directing the pilot episode of the Nightmare on Elm Street TV series as well.
Freddy's Nightmares thing.
Yeah, Freddy's Nightmares. So he was big in the horror community in the 80s and 90s, and then he did like 70s, 80s, and 90s, and then he did the remake of the Toolbox Murders in the very, very late 90s, early 90s, and sort of like came back a little bit and did a few more films after that, and he sort of like died out a little bit. He went to Weir and didn't sort of like do very much, but those 2 films alone, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, they are well known in the horror community as being very influential when it comes to horror, especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that was one of the first tellings of Ed Gein, the serial killer. We've seen tons of other films now based around Ed Gein, everything from Silence of the Lambs, except to Texas Chainsaw Massacre's multiple films. There's actually a film coming out the end of September on DirecTV in America, and October on Video On Demand and everywhere else, Leatherface, which is the prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it spawned loads of films. His original vision of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he, like I said, iconic director in the world of horror, and sadly will be missed.
Movies that defined genre, really.
Him and Wes Craven, 2 directors who we've lost in the horror community, were responsible pretty much for injecting something different and something nasty into horror, which was needed. The kick in the proverbial that area. I'm trying my best not to. I was trying to think of words that was very PG friendly to say, but I couldn't think of any. So you know what I mean. No, it's in the front end, the proverbial kick in the groinal area.
The front
yeah, they was responsible for the horror injection that was needed, both Wes Craven and Tobe Hooper. So it's sad to see Tobe Hooper gone. Onto other news regarding... Now, this is an absolute mess. I've only got little bits of it written down, but it'll jog your memory. It's regarding everything that's happening in the DC universe at the moment, and specifically Batman and Joker and all of that kind of stuff. It was originally revealed that Gotham City Sirens, the spin-off from the Suicide Squad, was going to be shelved or put on the back burner in favour of the fast-tracking of Suicide Squad 2. Now, it has been revealed that's not going to be the case. Gotham City Sirens is still going to happen. There is going to be a Joker and Harley Quinn spin-off film as well as a Joker origin story that is going to be produced by Martin Scorsese.
Is he not directing it as well, or is he writing it or something?
I heard produced, but I'm not sure if he's directing it as well.
Yeah, it's everything sounds like it's a mess. Really, it doesn't. It seems as if they're grasping at kind of straws of things what to do, and they're thinking, oh, we need to do this, and we've got to get this quick, and we've got to get thrown. And I mean, they were speeding up Suicide Squad 2 and rushing it so that it can be ready by a certain time. And I think honestly DC are kind of sitting there thinking, oh my god, what's going on? We're in a mess, and Justice League is getting all these things about it being reshoots and rechanging things and stuff, and when it's released, if it doesn't do well, I think everyone at DC is going to go.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing that's happening at DC is an absolute mess. It's just an absolute mess. They need to reel back a lot. Instead of just announcing everything, just stop doing that, firstly. Just they need to put a tight grasp on everything that's happening in the DC universe, because everything that seems to be getting announced a few days later gets re-announced or gets rebuted.
Or something breaks about it that means that it's been changed to something else, or it is a mess.
Yeah, there's something happening in the DC universe, at Warner Brothers especially, etc. So they needed to keep a tight lid on it.
I'm kind of wondering if the people in charge of it if they're potentially fighting off some kind of a coup over who's going to be in charge of it, because it seems like nobody really knows what's going on with it, and I don't know. It does not bode well for it. Marvel has never been in this kind of a state.
Because with Matt Reeves getting brought in to do the Batman, that was then indicated that the Batman film was going to be standalone from Justice League, etc. When it's now actually revealed that that's not going to be the case, and what Matt Reeves says was taken out of context, and he had to sort of like reissue his statement again and reassure people that the Batman is part of that, and that it is still going to be played by Ben Affleck there. It's unsure that, because they were unsure if Ben Affleck was actually going to return again, and so that was still there. And it's just every single week now we're going to have DC stories regarding something stupid happening in DC.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where until I see something, I'm not going to kind of take it as being a lot of something, because it's just become a lot of, I don't think it's intentional, but a lot of misdirect.
Yeah, a lot of it. Other news, there's not very much other news reeling around. There's one piece of breaking news which I'll get onto in a moment, but actor Martin Lawrence has confirmed that the third Bad Boys film has been canned for good, and that the film is no longer happening.
Okay.
So people who were hoping for Bad Boys 3, nope, you're not going to get it. It was supposed to be released this year, and that was pushed back to next year. Then there was going to be a spin-off Bad Boys film, and then the third one was going to actually come out in 2019. But they've turned around and said, nope.
I'm just thinking, it's going to happen. It will happen, and I'll tell you why. Because Will Smith needs a hit. And his next films, his films that he's been on recently have not been successful or even decent. And
his last film was Collateral Beauty, wasn't it?
Yeah, last film was Collateral Beauty. His next film actually is a Netflix release, which is being released in December. The David Ayer one with Joel Edgerton, and it's like a cross between Training Day and Lord of the Rings, basically. It's weird to describe it like that.
That one.
That is Bright, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, we'll see, but it's a Netflix release, so it's not as if it's something that's going to be released in cinemas and given a chance to do any money or anything like that. So it's going to be, I think Will Smith is in danger of damaging his brand, shall we say.
Yeah, wasn't there a TV series from the person who did Thunderbirds and stuff like that, which had a cop, and it was sort of like science fiction kind of thing, and you had a sidekick with him?
Well, there's something you're saying there I'm remembering. But
yeah, it was like there was aliens involved as well, and one of the cop was human, and the sidekick was an alien.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was something like Precinct 13 or something of that ilk there. That's what Bright reminds me of. It reminds me of that, but obviously not as cheesy and looking as that. But yeah, Will Smith needs more than just a hit. If you've heard his latest collaboration with DJ Jazzy Jeff, because him and DJ Jazzy Jeff are supposedly going on the road and releasing an album, and they've just released a video of their first song, and oh my god, is it awful! I heard the full thing is on YouTube now. I listened to about 20 seconds of it, and my ears started to bleed. It's really horrible. So he needs more than just a musical hit and never film it. He needs to just actually look at what he's doing. So very much like the DC stuff, which he's involved in that as well with Suicide Squad. Dolph Lundgren has confirmed that he will be playing Ivan Drago again in the Creed sequel.
See, the Rocky films were never a big thing for me. I seem to be the only person that hasn't really been sort of enamored with them over the years. I think the first one is very good. I think it's a great, very well written one by Sylvester Stallone as a writer. Because Sylvester Stallone, people forget he's a good writer, good screenwriter, and it's a great film in that regard. I think all the sequels were high points and low points, really. Creed, I think, was a very good film, a spin-off. It was a very interesting way it was done. I really enjoyed it, and I'm just not sure about a second one. I mean, obviously it's tied into the same world, but if that's the case, is it still going to be a Creed film? Is it, is he just going to be playing a small owner, or is he going to be playing the fighter and actually fighting again? Are we going to see Creed supporting Rocky doing a comeback, but it being in a Creed film? I don't know.
No, from what I've heard, he's supposed to be playing Ivan Drago, but it's going to be Michael B. Jordan going up against Ivan Drago's son in Creed 2. So he's going to be playing Ivan Drago, but he's not going to be fighting very much like it was hinted that Sylvester Stallone's character in Creed was Rocky. So it's going to be that.
Yeah.
From what I originally heard.
It might be fine then. I mean, it might be
because the rival
proportion and just be a small 5-minute cameo. You don't know.
Yeah, the rivalry. There's supposed to be a rivalry spark because Ivan Drago does see Creed's coach and then sees that it is Rocky, and so that's where a fight gets set up between both Jordan's character and Ivan Drago's son in the film itself. So that's from what I've read anyway.
Okay.
The other piece of news that is just not long broke is Ed Skrein, who was announced to be playing Major Ben Daimio in the new Hellboy film. Well, he's just gone and issued a statement saying, last week it was announced that I will be playing Major Ben Daimio in the upcoming Hellboy reboot. I accepted the role unaware that the character in the original comics was of mixed Asian heritage. There has been intense conversations and understandable upset since the announcement, and I must do what I feel is right. I'll not read the rest of it. It's just regarding the fact that the character itself is of mixed Asian heritage. So he's decided to, after whitewashing uproar occurred, he's decided to step to one side. And hopefully that the casting people involved on the new Hellboy reboot actually cast somebody who is a mixed Asian race. And he announced that, Ed Skrein announced that about half an hour ago.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. It's this whole PC thing.
Yeah,
it's PC. I mean, if people want to change a casting in a film, I mean, it's like they're saying then okay, you can't. I kind of feel annoyed about the fact that it's a character who's been changed. It's been whitewashed. They're saying that, okay, so they changed the character from being Asian in the original to being white. But if they go and change something that's based on a character or something that's the original source material has a character that's white and they replace it with someone who's black, for example, the Dark Tower, people were upset about that, but none of them raised it as a whole thing of it's a race thing. I think it's it's sad that we've got to the point where people, it's like the second anyone sees anything, it's like, oh, race, and it kind of annoys me that the people that are the ones that start it are the ones that are just there to just be enraged by it. They're not actually caring about it. They don't care about the material. The people who've raised this, I guarantee, do not care about Hellboy. They are people who have just gone, oh, it's the thing I can kick off about.
Exactly. It's just like what happened with Ghost in the Shell with Scarlet Johannsen. It's very similar to what's happened with I'll review Death Note later on in the show in the home release section. So what happened with that and the fact that they cast an American to play the lead role in it when it was originally played by a Japanese person. You have to realize it's an Americanized version of Death Note. It's not a remake of Death Note. It's the Americanized version of it. And so it's just too prevalent these days. So anything that they can latch onto any kind of ounce of controversy regarding anything in a film where the original characters were this, you have to realize that's the comic book versions of them. It doesn't mean that Neil Marshall, who's directing the reboot of the Hellboy series, has to follow the comic book. The comic book came out first. Yes, the character was created as being mixed Asian. Fine. But it's his version. It's up to him how he actually handles the characters. It doesn't mean that it has to follow everything that's happened in the past before. It's a reboot. It's not a remake. So, it's silly. It's just silly. And that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the news this week. Let's get going on to the DVD. So DVD. I do it every time, don't I? Every time. The cinema top 10 chart.
Yeah, so at number 10 is Spider-Man Homecoming because we don't have the new chart.
Yeah, because it's a bank holiday Monday. It's a lot of people really loved it. It's done well, obviously enough, and I don't hate it, but I was very underwhelmed by it, and I think there's a lot of things in it, decisions that have been made by the director in the way it's been done, and the way that the characters have been done, and not necessarily the characters, but I think the way that the acting has gone through in it, and some decisions I think have been wrong. I don't think it's been a great fit for the director. I think it's a weak. I mean, the strongest part of it is, I think, is Michael Keaton as the Vulture, as a villain, which is a really rare, surprising thing because most of the Marvel films have terrible villains. So it's kind of nice on that regard. But I think largely that is down to just Michael Keaton giving a great Michael Keaton performance because he's fantastic anyway.
And I've yet to see it. I've still yet to see it. It is the rare thing where I've yet to see a superhero film, but it's gone.
The home release version before you see it.
Yeah, it's gone out the top 10 pretty much because, like I said, this is last week's chart, so the new chart it'll be out of the top 10. So I'll have to wait for it on home release. Now, even though my cinema is still shown, I've got either too much to catch up on or work is just hitting me really hard at the moment, so it's not going to happen. Just like the number 9 film, I'll have to wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and DVD as well. It's a new entry for Everything.
Yeah, it's very, very poor. It's a very cliched, one of these kind of teen love story novel things. That's the film, and it then goes and kind of cops out towards the end of it, and it just doesn't follow through the setup, which is a very weak setup as it is anyway. So it's bad acting in the film, nothing outstanding about it. It's a film you sit there and you just kind of wait for it to end, which is just a shame.
Yeah, at number 8 it's got the biggest drop off in the top 10. As a matter of fact, it's got the biggest drop off in the top 15 is Atomic Blonde. Drop off of 70%.
I'm not surprised. I think that people did like it and saw it, but then people after they'd seen it for a while, they went, well, you know what, actually, I didn't really like it as much as I thought I did. And I definitely got that feeling. I mean, it's a film that is very much, it's got the problems of the way the style of it is done in a way that it takes the horror movie, the quiet bang thing, and instead just does quiet loud music, an action sequence, and it foreshadows with the music that there's an action sequence coming. It doesn't build on it, it doesn't work on it, it sets up stuff and then just doesn't really pay it off. It does have a fantastically done fight sequence. I would take the 10 minutes that has the car chase and the stairway fight sequence towards the end. I would take that 10 minutes out and just basically show that and go, that is Atomic Blonde, that's what's great about it. You don't need to see the rest of it. And then it also then goes and has these stupid endings that just throw away a lot of stuff, and you kind of sit there going, really? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it reminded me of watching a lot of films like Ultraviolet or films like that, where you watch the trailer and think, oh, this might be fun, this. It looks like one of those really fun, high-octane-esque movies. But when you watch it, after coming out of it, you're going, all right, okay, then that's fine. The best way I can describe it is like you're seeing a really gorgeous dessert, or when you go into any fast food restaurant, you see the pictures of the burgers just on the back wall or whatever on the screens, and they look absolutely gorgeous. But when you open your burger, you just look at it and go, is that really it? So it doesn't seem to fit the film itself when you watch the film as a whole rather than watch the trailer. The trailer makes it dynamic, whereas in this, when you watch the whole film, it just feels very generic. And it was more interested in the music choices than what was actually happening on screen. And it is that problem, as I indicated when we reviewed the film, that it is from a person who hasn't directed a film before. He is more involved in the choreography when it comes to fight scenes in films. So this is his directorial debut. It's that problem. It's happened with the Alien vs. Predator Requiem film, with the directors being sci-fi. It happened with Transcendence, with Wally Pfister directing that as well. They're more used to doing their thing when it comes to films rather than directing a film, and they think that they can do it when in fact they can handle the thing that they're good at, but when it comes to the rest of it, they don't seem to be able to grasp it as much as they think they can.
Yeah.
At number 7 is comedy Girls Trip.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing actually with Girls Trip because of the fact that we do have on the show this evening, we have Rough Night, and there is a sort of similarity and connection between the two of them. We'll get to when we're doing Rough Night, but it's a film. The Girls Trip is basically, it takes kind of the most of the whole thing of like the idea of The Hangover, and it's almost like if you took the missing hours of The Hangover and filmed it with 4 women instead, is essentially what it comes to, because you have the same kind of setup of the characters. Not that someone's getting married, not that someone's getting married, but the whole thing of them doing this business thing, and are they really happy? And each one of them has their own sort of faults and problems. They're all coming together for this thing, and they're expecting it to be all great. And it's how it all kind of shows how really shabby they all are in their lives. And it's really, the film is that shabby, and it's got some really questionably bad comedy ideas, I think, in it. There's a particular joke that I just found that actually, I will say that there is a joke in this that goes too far, that in the opening of Rough Night is set up and then the film stops and cuts away to it. And at that moment when I was watching Rough Night and that happened, I thought, oh yeah, that's what Girls Night should have done. Girls Night should have gone, set it up, and then just cut to it and suggested it, not actually go and show it. You don't have to actually show everything in a bodily fluids joke, because then it gets kind of gross and it's unnecessary and it's just bad taste. Moving on, number 6 is Despicable Me 3. Yeah, disappointing, very lackluster, the weakest of the Despicable Me movies, and the Minions, not enough Minion, more Minion needed, more Minion required. At number 5 is a new entry for The Dark Tower. Yeah, have you seen this? I can't remember if you have.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a film that I kind of want to go and see again now that I've seen it, just to see all the bits, and not so that I can really enjoy it, but so I can sit there and kind of pick it. Cause I want to go and pick this film apart more. It's a film that it's definitely the words "fix it in post" have never been more said, I don't think, about a film. And by anyone doesn't know what that term is, it's a term that when you make a film, you obviously try and get your footage of everything you've got, you get your coverage of everything you need, so you can edit it together and make a complete film. And what it is then, if they cover it, they film what they can, don't manage to get everything, and they go, oh, we'll fix it in post production, we'll put it together, we'll hold it together with gaffer tape, and that'll be it. We'll make a decent enough film, and that'll be it. And that's what they've done. They've made a film, first of all, without really, I don't know for sure, but everyone's saying it doesn't follow the source material. It really throws it to the wind and doesn't care. And then it has moments in it where you just kind of sit there going, well, that doesn't make sense, that's why you're doing that. It jumps, you kind of think, well, there's something missing here. And then the only thing that's really, really good about it is Idris Elba. Idris Elba does, I think, a very good sort of job of carrying the film on his performance. And that's one of the things I would actually watch it for again, is Idris Elba's performance. Everything else in it is laughable at times, just how bad it is. But surprisingly, it's not a terrible film. It should be a lot worse than it is. They have done some post-production magic on the film.
I love the fact that he asked me if I've seen it or not. I was the one to review it.
I know, but I couldn't remember. I honestly couldn't remember last week, and it's been a crazy week for me this week. But I couldn't remember if you had seen it or not. Yeah.
I reviewed it. So yeah, I think I think everybody involved is lackluster, to be honest. I think Matthew McConaughey here has gone back to his wooden mentality. I think Idris Elba, the way he portrays the character itself, again, I've not read the source material. I just didn't think there was any depth or any heart or anything, any care to it at all. Dennis Haysbert plays his father in a couple of little scenes in the film as well, which, again, it was just added in there because the director thought, oh, we've got like 7 books to work from. I need to cram like 4 of them into one film.
I think that was actually one of the reshoots they did.
Yeah, everything just feels way too rushed for one film. And it was that rare thing where after I watched, I went, this film should have been 2 hours long. It should have been 2.5 hours long. It's rare that I do see that a film should have been longer than what it is. Well, we'll get onto a couple of films which should have been much shorter than it is when we'll review them a little bit later on. But this is one of those ones where it should have been longer because there is just way too much source material to put into one film, and he's crammed like loads of it into a 95-minute film, which it doesn't work on that front there because you know you're going to get a mess. At number 4 is The Emoji Movie, the film in the top 10 which has dropped the least.
Yeah, and the reason for that will be because parents have been taking their kids to see it because it is a U-rated film. The thing with it is it's a film that is just a big way of advertising phones and apps and things to kids, which is really despicable. But the thing that's really kind of worrying about it is that having seen it in the cinema filled with kids, as I've seen other films like Trolls, for example. In Trolls, kids were standing and running around in the film when they, because they lost interest, they weren't that into it, they didn't follow it. This, surprisingly, kids were sat rooted in their seats watching the film, into the characters, and you kind of sit there going, well, this is the future of films, with kids being sort of suckered into this kind of thing, and they're essentially. It's not really, but it's kind of like brainwashing them into, you need a phone, you need these apps, this is what it's for. It's also you can send messages and do these things, and this is the only way you can communicate with people is through a phone. And it's just kind of no.
And just to reiterate a little bit, that's Trolls the animated film, not Trolls the horror film, where it spawned one of the worst sequels known to man. But yeah, the Emoji Movie is not a movie that you need to get angry about. You need to get angry at the studio for making, considering the fact that Sony bought the rights to it pretty much the same week Inside Out came out in 2015, and they thought we're going to make an animated film in 2 years. With the depth of Inside Out, when in fact there is no way you can do that. You need 4 years, at least 4 years, to be able to do that kind of stuff. And when you churn out a film of this kind of quality after just 2 years, it remains very much like the Smurfs movie or things of that ilk, very much like the Top Cat films, where they had Top Cat and then they did the Top Cat, the sequel, about 1.5 years after it, because they think they're able to actually do that. It's not possible. And you get an absolute car crash of a mess like the Emoji Movie. At number 3 is Annabelle Creation.
Yeah, which I haven't seen.
Yeah, which I know you won't be seeing. So, yeah, it's a film that is much better than the first film, because the first film was absolutely just horrible. John Leonetti was the director of the first film, and he went on to do Wish Upon. I always keep forgetting the name of that film. But he stepped aside and did that atrocious film as well, whereas this one was directed by David Sandberg, who did Lights Out, and he did a fantastic job of making sure that it is part of the Conjuring universe, which the Conjuring universe is going to get more complex and a little bit more headache-like, because the fact that the studio is getting took to court, because a guy in 2013 said that he originally wrote sort of like the story behind The Conjuring, and it was copied. So Warner Brothers copied the story of The Conjuring to make The Conjuring universe, and now they've gone in a lawsuit when in fact The Conjuring universe is based on the Warrens. So the stuff behind the Amityville Horror and all of that ilk. So it's going to get much more of a headache. Plus you've got another spin-off in The Nun coming out as well, and you've also got The Smiling Man, and then The Conjuring 3. So it's going to get even more hectic. But Annabelle Creation is a really well-constructed horror film, which is making me evaluate my end-of-year categories this year when it comes to the awards that we give out. So normally I do Best Animated Film and Biggest Surprise, but this year I'm changing it to Best Animated Film and Best Horror, because we've had Get Out, which I really liked. We've had a few other horror films really as well.
It's so much horror, I don't think, though.
It still belongs in the horror genre. Annabelle Creation is in the horror genre as well. Then there's It, which is out next Friday, which I cannot wait for. You've also got Cult of Chucky as well, which got fantastic receptions at this year's Fright Fest the weekend just gone there. You've got Leatherface, which is out in October. And you've got Jigsaw, which is the reboot of the Saw franchise. That's out in October as well. And then you've got a few other trickling horror films and Raw as well. So I've got a new category for the end of the year show. At number 2, and I still yet to see it, is Dunkirk.
Yeah, definitely a feature film, and the fact that Christopher Nolan has kind of focused more on it being a feature and the whole thing of it, the style of it, and the filming of it being the IMAX thing. Having had seen it though in IMAX and seen it in a regular screen, because the IMAX one is obviously a full image, but the normal regular cinema version is the widescreen version. I really do prefer the widescreen version. I prefer the regular cinema version. First of all, the IMAX I think was too loud. I think the IMAX version is a very delicate thing of the volume levels in it can be very off-putting and very mixed, because it's just a bit overpowering too much. I know it's intended to be overpowering music, but it's a bit just too overpowering. It's got these amazing sequences. It's got great performances. It's got great stuff in it. And it's one of the best sort of films we've seen in the world, but it has got a very lackluster story. There's not much of a story to it. There's not really much character to the characters, because it's just all sort of following one sort of main character and a couple other sort of supporting characters during the events of Dunkirk, and it has that whole thing of the 3 stories at different time points that are sort of intersecting at different points, and so it's got that whole thing of that it's kind of like it's gimmicky, trying to be more than it needs to be, more than it is, and I do think it's a really great, impressive film. Is it amongst the best of the year? It possibly isn't. It might not even be in my top 10. It might be, but if it is, I'm not entirely sure with my list of the films this year. If it will be in the top 5, it might just be in the top 5, 6 to 10.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a warning as well when we do review it. They've actually just released 3 clips, which are perfect to actually play on the show. So I've got a choice of 3 clips to play for. The one that I've chosen, I'll give you an early warning. You will get scared, because it is a freaking phenomenal clip, audio-wise as well. So I'll give you that little warning regarding that, because it's just cropped into my mind there.
I'll forget by next week.
Yeah, well, we're not reviewing it next week. It's the week after where we are reviewing it. But like I said, I'm giving you a forewarning. The 3 clips that they've released today are perfect audio clips. A surprise for a horror film, but they are perfect audio clips. And the one that I've chosen is just really brilliantly well executed. And at number 1 is a new entry for The Hitman's Bodyguard. And before you say what you say about The Hitman's Bodyguard, I will say this about it, because I've seen it as well. But The Hitman's Bodyguard is responsible for the worst box office takings in America in the last 16 years.
Wow.
So yeah, the box office takings in America were down, like the worst takings they've ever seen in 16 years, below $50 million. The top 12 films didn't take above $50 million at the US box office. So it remained at number 1, but that was the highest grossing film this weekend in the US.
Is it fair to say really it's responsible for that? I don't know. It's maybe just part of it because of the fact of that this year has been films, and it may just be people financially at the moment. I don't know. To say that it's responsible. Sorry, go on. Just
give you just to put it into context, the Mayweather versus McGregor fight, actually went into the top 10 in America. But your thoughts on Hitman's Bodyguard?
Yeah. I enjoyed it as much as it is a dumb, stupid film, because it is. It's a very B-movie, very poorly directed, I think, at times, actually thinking about it. And some sequences that you just kind of feel, well, you could tighten this up, you could make this better, you could make it a little bit funnier, but it's a film that you sit there, kind of switch your brain off and just go with it, and it's a fun film. It's surprising how enjoyable it is, despite it being not a great film and not even a great script. But it's the whole thing of it. It's the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson that is what is fun to watch, and their performances. That's just, it carries it along, and it makes it a good hour and a half to watch.
Yeah, I sort of don't agree with you on that front there, because the chemistry between them was starting to get great on me. It was like really starting to grate on. The film itself is just shy of 2 hours, actually.
Is it 2 hours? I didn't think it was.
Yeah, it's just shy of 2 hours. It's about 1 hour 50 in that area there. But yeah, it definitely felt like it, because it felt like it was overstretching jokes all the time. And it was just loud for being loud. The last 20 minutes just was overstaying its welcome way too much. Like they were extending because the director thought, oh, we've got something else we can add to it. And the middle section felt like it was sagging a lot, that nothing was actually happening. And when something did, it was just the same thing over and over again. It's a one-joke film that was repeating itself multiple times. And that joke was not brilliant in the first place. And so repeating itself multiple times is just, Selma Hayek thrown into the mix as well. It's completely just annoying character.
I will say this, Gary Oldman. What is Gary Oldman doing in the film, in that role?
Gary Oldman was just told, do you want to play a bad guy? And he went, why not? I am to play a bad guy
and be paid like $5 million or something, probably for 5 hours work or something.
I haven't played a bad guy in a little while. Why not? I'll play a really despicable bad guy. Yeah, it's fun to play those, so that's the only reason why he's in there. It's just, you would think that having both Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson in a film will be joyful, but it's actually really annoying, because then it sort of like enhances their annoyances. So it's like Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool without the costume, and it's like Samuel Jackson just playing Samuel L. Jackson.
But it's a film that I went expecting that, and I got that, and that's what I enjoyed it. And the audience I saw it with were all laughing and enjoying. I mean, nobody's taking it seriously. It's one of those films that you're just sitting there laughing at the jokes and that's it, kind of thing.
I wasn't taking it seriously, but I didn't laugh. Moving on anyway to something more serious.
Yeah. So, the big new releases this week: Detroit, which is directed by Kathryn Bigelow. It's based on true events that happened in, I don't actually have the year. I think it was 1960s. Where you have in the city of Detroit, there is the sort of the racial tension that was going on at the time. You had the film starts off with police sort of raiding a kind of a speakeasy place where people are there having a party, and it's all sort of black characters that are there in this party, and the police go in. Some of the police are black, but mostly white, who then go in and raid the place, line up all the men outside, and basically go through them and are very kind of abusive to them, and as they're lining them up and then chucking them into vans to go through and be sort of processed at the police station. This kicks off with the racial tension, a series of riots in the city in Detroit over several days, which results in almost sort of a martial law being declared, and you have the police are there, you have some of the National Guard are there, and you have the sort of, in amongst all this, especially a couple of police involving played by one of the police, especially played by Will Poulter, is at the very beginning of the riots involved in a shooting that results in a black man being killed. He is sort of warned of this, the fact that's happened. It will be investigated. He goes out again with everyone else. They're all there, sort of on the thing, and they're told, to not sort of kick things off if they can help it and avoid it. But of course, one thing leads to another. They are sort of all out amongst, at one point where they meet up with some National Guardsmen, who also are joined by a character played by John Boyega, who plays a man who's basically a security guard at a shop trying to protect it from anything happening as a result of the riots, who all gets embroiled in this moment when somebody fires just a starter pistol at them, and they think it's a sniper. So of course one thing escalates and leads to another. Here's a clip of them. There's not many clips released for this film really that work for radio, but this is the one which you have John Boyega's character going over basically to make friends with the National Guardsman. He brings them coffee.
Hey fellas, Melvin Desmukes. I'm with United Security. I'm guarding that grocery store across the street. I come bearing gifts.
Oh, thank you. That's nice voice. Hey, all things considered, this is pretty good.
Thank you. I don't have my usual appliances.
Oh, you got any sugar?
I don't push your man.
So you have this whole thing that then kicks off at the Algiers motel, where the police go in and hold it. Amongst the sort of the leader of these groups, amongst them is Will Poulter, who's very sort of strong and very sort of jacked up as a result of the events that have happened. You have John Boyega's character, who is sort of drafted into the situation and ends up sort of trying to make sure. I mean, the first thing he gets there, when he gets there, he tries to convince the black men that are there to calm down and not kick off things, because he knows that potentially this is a bad situation which could get worse and kick off even more bad things. He's there trying to stop things from getting going. But you have it all sort of the majority of the sort of the film is a 2.5 hour film, and you have the majority of the kind of the middle hour and a half. So half an hour set up, then half an hour at the end after the events. But the middle hour and a half is all set in the house, in the building part of the hotel. It's a like an extended building in the hotel, so it's a separate section they're all in, and it's basically the police are there trying to figure out what happened, trying to find this gun, and trying to make sure that if it was a sniper, and things. The tension builds up, the performances, and everyone sort of riling up each other, that then get out of hand, and one thing leads to another, and the event's gone. Now, the thing with it is, it's a film which is filled with really, really good performances. Will Poulter is absolutely fantastic. He's not a particularly likeable character, but he's a fantastic performance on his part. John Boyega is really, really good in his role as well, though I do think there's a section of the film where he's not given a lot to do. And the other actors in the film are all really sort of bringing their A game as well. Kathryn Bigelow is one of my favourite directors. I have to say, this is not one of my favourite films of hers, as much as it is a really good film. And parts of the problem with that is that I do find that it's filmed in a certain way that it's been done to be very like a more kind of instead of like a film, more like a documentary, with a lot of handheld footage, a lot of the way it's filmed with sort of walking around as the events are happening, and I just found it very much that it didn't work for me in that regard. I think that I would have done it a different way. I would have looked at it a different way. The thing with it is, it's one of these films where you're seeing the event, and it does explain at the end that not all of the events are fully known what happened. It's taken from all of the police briefings and all of the records and everything of what did happen, but a lot of it has been filled in with supposition of what potentially could have happened, how these things happen, and it's that is why I just found it very much kind of, after everything you've gone through in the film and watch it, you kind of sit there going, and you kind of feel a lot more as if you've been pointed in a direction and not given everything to make your own mind up. It feels very much as if the film has made its own mind up about everything before showing you it, rather than showing you it and trying to say this is what happened. It's more saying, it feels more like it's trying to say this guy did this guy did this, not this is what happened. And I just found that really kind of, it left a bad taste in my mouth with the film. I really found it one of these things that I don't like about a film, is when they do something that's based on a true event, and then you find out, oh, it's based on a true event, but we, at the end of it, we told you it's based on true event, but really it's based on this little thing, and everything else was a lie. Everything else was made up, and not that it's a lie, but I just it doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that about a film. I don't like being misled into believing all the events and exactly what happened, and then finding out, oh, it's not true, or it might not be true. It could be true. We don't know for sure, but we told you it was true. That's the thing that really bugs me about it. Other than that, though, it is a fantastically done film, fantastically performed, okay filmed. As I say, issues with that, but it's a good film. And I mean, you might think from me saying that I'm going to say it's my favourite film of the week. It's not my film of the week. As much as I did enjoy it, I didn't hate it, but I did enjoy it. But it left a bad taste in my mouth at the end of the film, and I just kind of walked away from it going, I wish it had not done that.
All right, we'll move on then. We'll move on to Logan Lucky. It sees Steven Soderberg returning to the director's chair when it comes to films, because he has been doing TV projects. And then he did turn around after directing Magic Mike, saying that, you know what, I'm pretty much done with directing. That's it. I'm gonna. So I give other people a chance.
Behind the candelabra.
He sort of like came back to do Behind the Candelabra in a way, but I think he actually was making Behind the Candelabra in about the same time as Magic Mike, pretty much doing them off the bat with each other. So Magic Mike came out first, and then you had Behind the Candelabra, and then he disappeared. And then there was this actually pretty much came out of nowhere, to be honest. I hadn't heard anything regarding Logan Lucky prior to about a month and a half ago. So it was I didn't know that Soderberg was directing something like this. And so the way, if you watch the trailer, it does say from the director of the Ocean 11, Ocean 12, Ocean 13, and there's a line in the film which says which is regarding like 7-Eleven. It's very similar on that front there, and it is very like the same kind of tone as the Ocean's films. It centers around two brothers played by Channing Tatum and Adam Driver. Channing Tatum plays Jimmy Logan, who at the start of the film we see that he has been let go of his construction job itself due to liability issues. He used to have a promising football career, but he was ruined by an injury, and they've decided to let him go at the construction job at a motor speedway. And you've also got Adam Driver's character who plays Clyde Logan, who is the brother of that simpleton-esque kind of character in a way. He's an Iraq war veteran who lost a limb, and so he has a prosthetic arm. And so you see both of those two characters at the start of the film sort of like intertwining with each other, etc. And then all of a sudden, Channing Tatum's character just mentions the word cauliflower. Which I'm not going to see it the way Adam Driver's character. I just see it in the film because cauliflower. You'll hear a clip in a moment which is giving you an indication of Adam Driver's voice. But yeah, he sees that out of the blue, out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it clicks into Driver's brain. What's happening here? Are you wanting me to do a heist with you again, etc.? When in fact, yes, he does. Both the Logan brothers then come up with a plan to try and hijack money from a speedway, but they do need the help of an insane character played by Daniel Craig, who plays a character called Joe Bang, who's a convict who is in prison, but he's able to actually break into banks, and that's the only person who can help them out. Here's a clip giving you a feel of what the film's like.
Millie, what did you do?
Well, hello. I guess someone grew up. What's your name again, little Logan?
Melly.
Melly. Melly. That rhymes with smelly. Nice.
Shut up.
There's clothes for you both in the bag, and Clyde, I put something special in there for you.
Thanks, Mel. You're going pretty fast.
Well, we got a lot of road to cover, so yeah, there will be speeding.
Gunning for 100 in a neon blue car that probably ain't even on the market yet? Don't you think you're asking to be pulled over?
Sunday on a holiday weekend. Police department hit by budget cuts. There's only one musker patrolling the whole highway for the next 40 miles.
But that's still one musker.
It's been handled.
Millie, I'm about to get naked back here. So no bacon. I said no bacon.
Would you give me my arm, please?
Is it this one?
So yeah, you heard Adam Driver's character's voice there. It's an interesting voice to actually try and get used to during the film. Thrown into the mix also, you've got Joe Bang's brothers, dim-witted brothers, Sam and Fish, to try and help them out with this raid that they're doing. And you've also got a driver played by Seth MacFarlane, who has a very interesting English accent. He plays Max Chilblain, and thrown into the mix also, you've got Katie Holmes as well, and Hilary Swank. So it's Steven Soderbergh in a way going back to the kind of problems we originally had with him cramming as many actors as he possibly can into a film. It's not as bad as what he used to be like, but it's sort of like giving hints of that old times of what Soderbergh was originally like. Now, the thing with Logan Lucky is if you watch the trailers, and there was a Red Band trailer release for this as well, it'll give you an indication of that, this might be quite sweatastic because Daniel Craig's character is very off-kilt. And also, so is Channing Tatum's character of Jimmy Logan. He's got a wife and daughter who he seems to be neglecting a little bit. They're in a different part of the country, and so he's neglecting them. He's supposed to go to one of his daughter's things, and unfortunately turns up a day late regarding that there. And so you would expect a little bit of sweatastic on that front there, and them feed off each other on that, and some violence as well, when in fact it's not. It's quite friendly on that front there. It's a 12 here in the UK, a PG-13 I think in America, and so you don't get any of that sweatastic stuff, which is an interesting thing to do in this kind of film. Is the film any good? It's all right. It's nothing special. It's entertaining for what it's worth. It's done for just shy of 2 hours, and it never overstays its welcome because there is chemistry there. I think Adam Driver steals the show as Clyde Logan. I think he is the best thing in the film itself, despite... well, in my opinion, I think he is anyway. Despite his voice, I think Adam Driver's character is the best, then followed by Daniel Craig's one. I think Channing Tatum is a bit underwritten. Even though he's supposed to be one of them, he's sort of like front and center. He's a bit underwritten. The character is very just straightforward and not interesting enough. Throwing Seth MacFarlane into the mix there, I think it was just Soderberg going, you know what, try and do an English accent, go on. And Seth MacFarlane has been on the Graham Norton show in the UK, and he's proven that he can do an Essex accent. And so him trying to do a sort of like London-esque kind of accent was interesting to hear. And it's very miss and slightly miss, but at least he's having a try there.
It's consistent, you can say that. It's kind of, it doesn't actually waver, surprisingly. It's just not on point.
Another thing which is slightly annoying about the film itself is that the female characters are very underwritten. It just seems to be all centered around the male-centric cast of the film rather than the female ones. And I think he just brought both Katie Holmes and Hilary Swank in it just because he needed a few female characters on there. So I think the strongest out of the female characters is Mellie, the sister of the bunch there. But it's not a very strong female cast. But the film itself is fine. It's nothing special. It's just fine.
I have to say, I enjoyed this a heck of a lot more than you did. It is very much just a kind of return to form of Steven Soderbergh doing the Ocean's 11, 12, 13 thing again. But it's essentially if, you know, the main characters in the Ocean's films, Danny Ocean, the George Clooney character, was a redneck. And then, you know, he comes up with a scheme and has to, you know, what he's going to do and work it all out and everything. And it's kind of... it is kind of like the underdog version of the Ocean films, and I found it really quite sort of charming and endearing and enjoyable. And I did find, as much as I do agree the female characters are not particularly well fleshed out, I do think there's quite a lot of character in the male characters, in the main characters. I agree. I mean, things like the Adam Driver character is really interesting and bizarre and quirky. Daniel Craig's character, I think, is fantastic in it. He's clearly loving just doing that crazy accent he's doing and having this look.
It's nice to see Craig like that rather than just doing the very stereotypical James Bond stuff. Yeah. It's nice for him to actually choose a role that is completely different to the stuff that he's played. It's not conservative at all. I think Soderbergh just told him, you've got free reins to do whatever you want, and he was allowed to.
Yeah, he just let loose, basically. And Channing Tatum's character there's not a massive amount there, but he does do a lot with kind of what he's got, because he's just got the basic thing of, you know, being a dad and almost being kind of the deadbeat dad, but he does care. I mean, there's a great opening scene between him and his daughter where he's just basically fixing the car and he's talking with her and telling her stuff, and she's sitting there and enjoying it. I thought that was really kind of interestingly done. I thought the character worked in that regard as well. So I really enjoyed this film, and I walked out after having seen a couple of films on the same day, and I was kind of, you know, I really enjoyed this. I really got into it.
Yeah.
Okay. On to then American Made. It's Doug Liman's latest film, returning with Tom Cruise after having done Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, as it was renamed. This isn't sci-fi though. This is based on a true story. It is following basically almost biographically around the character of Barry Seal, who was a man who in the 70s we're introduced to him, and he's a TWA pilot. He's literally sort of sitting there and just going through the routine of his job. At the opening, there's a sequence that just sees him standing there welcoming people as they arrive, walking off the plane. He's like, "Welcome to this place, welcome to this place, welcome to," and it's entirely just monotonousness of it is getting to him. When he's then approached by a character played by Donald Gleason, who is basically playing a guy called Schaefer, who says to him about the thing of, come work for us, we want you to come and do this, we want you to fly this plane that we've got, because we want you to fly, sort of go down South America and do some, take some shots with your camera on the bottom of this plane for us and do stuff, which he does, and does really well. So they end up taking him on more and doing other things, and it turns out that Barry has unintentionally or sort of not sort of intentionally, but he's been brought into a role being used by the CIA. The thing is that when he's then taken next to do things like smuggling down weapons to the Contras in in Nicaragua, I think it is, he then ends up being sort of sequestered at the airport where he's landed, or the small runway where he's landed, and taken to meet a character who it turns out is connected, for example, with certain names that you may recognise nowadays, like Pablo Escobar. Here's a clip.
Thank you for coming to see me.
Sir, I think there's been some sort of mistake here, because these fellas just picked me up at the airport.
No mistake. Just please, have a seat. Coffee, Mr. Seal?
You know my name?
You're the gringo who flies to Central America every week. Taking pictures very low with your fancy plane.
Yeah, I mean, those photos, see, I have a aviation company here in South America.
Yes,
that I advise. I see, yes, sir.
Or is it CIA?
What? No. I'm just a businessman here.
I'm a businessman. Imports, exports, cattle, horses. But now God above has blessed this great country with new riches, Mr. Seal. And you could help us.
How's that?
You know the routes. You can get in and out Estados Unidos with your fancy plane.
What kind of riches are we talking about here?
So, of course, he then is sort of riled into dealing with drug smuggling, and he ends up doing this because he does need money, because he's not getting paid a lot by the CIA. What's going on with him? He's having to support his wife, who is at that point in the film when he does reveal to her what he's doing. They have 2 kids already, and she is due 6 months due with another baby, and he has to basically smuggle them all out of their house at 2 o'clock in the morning, because the DEA is going to come and raid his house the next day. He's been warned by the CIA, so they take him to another place, and it's a crazy thing. But all of these things, these events, really apparently did happen. And the film has this thing of that what it's doing is it jumps forward in time, over a couple of years at points, and you have basically Tom Cruise playing Barry, talking to a camera, recording things on a video camera, like a video diary, explaining things that are happening as the story progresses along. The thing is, when you've seen the trailer for this film, you look at it and you look at it, and it's funny in the trailer, and you think it's going to be a comedy, an out-and-out comedy from the look of it and the way it's done and the style of it. And it's not. It is more of a drama. It has moments of comedy in it, but it's not a comedy, I would say. It's a film that just uses comedy in a good sense when you're watching it and going through it. But at no point is there moments that you kind of get a big, a belly laugh from it. It just has moments that are there to break the tension, or a character says something or does something, and you go, yeah, I mean, it's realistic in that respect to it. It's a film that it does get to a certain point, and then it kind of just ends when the film ends, which is where I think it has a problem, because it doesn't really set up that it's going to end. It just basically, it's almost like it runs you into a brick wall and then just goes, well, there you are, bye. And I just I found that very disjointed, and I kind of walked out of the screen going, yeah, okay, well, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that ending, and the rest of the film is perfectly fine. It's solidly directed by Liman. It's not his best films. I mean, it's not one of his worst films. It's not a bad film, but it's not gonna got his. It wants to be charming, and it's trying too hard, and it's not relaxed as it wants to be. It's got moments in it when you're sitting there and you're thinking, I should be enjoying this more. I should be laughing at it more. I should be engaging with it more, and I didn't. I think that Tom Cruise is doing a good Tom Cruise performance in the film, but I don't think the film is actually asking, is requiring a Tom Cruise level of performance. And by that I mean I view Tom Cruise. I'm not one of those people who hates Tom Cruise. I actually like him as an actor. I think he's a really good actor, because he's an actor that never kind of phones in his performance. You put him in any film and he never kind of just does the requirement and then goes off. He actually really puts himself into a film, into a role.
The Mummy.
Well, even then he did do.
No, he really did phone in his performance in The Mummy.
The thing is with this film though is that this film is looking for a performance that is good from anyone, and then Tom Cruise is doing it, and it's like Tom Cruise is actually better than the film, and it's just that I think it's a mismatch of him being cast in a role. I think if they had someone else who's, and I mean, even get someone like Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio is a fantastic actor, but I could see Leonardo DiCaprio doing this role and having a lot of fun with it and dialing it back a bit. Whereas Tom Cruise is literally just, he's throwing himself into it all he can, and it's just kind of, it's too much. It just doesn't work for the role, for the film.
We'll move on then, but my guess is that that American Made has more comedy in it than Rough Night. Directed by Lucia Anello. It centres around 4 friends, even though if you look on IMDb it says 5 friends, but the 5th friend is brought into it a little bit later on in the film. The first 20 minutes of the film is centred around 4 friends, played by Scarlett Johannsen, Gillian Bell, Zoe Kravitz and Ilana Glazer. They play Jess, Alice, Blair and Frankie. And as they are friends at college, and they decide to make a pact that they will always remain friends no matter what's happening. And so fast forward a few years later and everybody's actually pretty much split off from each other. So Jess, she is running for Congress. Alice, she's pretty much still a little bit of a slacker kind of thing. And then you've got Blair and Frankie. It was established that they had a relationship, but one has gone off to be an activist and the other one has gone off to be pretty much a spoiled brat. She has got a fantastic knowledge when it comes to seeing the prices of real estate. She's able to actually reel it off the top of the head, and she actually knows it off the top of her head as well. And so it is Jess's bachelor party. She is about to get married. So the 4 friends decide to say, you know what, let's all come together. We'll go to Miami. We'll have a bachelorette weekend, a wild party for the last weekend for Jess being single, properly single before she gets married. We'll bring a friend along. Jess, she brings along Kate McKinnon's character who plays Pippa, Australian character who's brought over from Australia to meet up with the girls. And so their whole thought is, let's have a party, we'll get strippers in, we'll take lots of drugs, we'll drink lots of drink, etc. And then something bad happens that makes everything just spiral completely out of control. Here's a clip.
We were supposed to pick up the keys from the neighbors.
Hi. Sorry, somebody left some...
Oh God, my goodness. Sorry, we'll come back.
So sorry. Girls, no, I'm sorry. Let me put something on.
Oh.
Come on in.
Very funny. Really. I love it.
Enchanté.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. Oh. Oh. Okay.
What brings you to Miami? Business? Pleasure? The business of pleasure?
Oh, wow. Bachelorette weekend. Jess is getting married.
Oh, congratulations. This marriage, will it be open?
You know, we haven't discussed it, but probably closed. Yeah, tightly closed. Well, we're gonna try to keep it down.
Oh, well, we'll try not to.
Oh. Yes, they're serious. Love it.
So in that clip there, you heard Ty Burrell and Demi Moore. They play the next door neighbours of where the bachelorette party is going to occur. And like I said, something bad happens, which makes the night completely spiral out of control. Now, this is built.
You can say what it is because it's in the trailer.
Fine. There is a stripper, and they end up killing the stripper. Gillian Bell's character, as a matter of fact, she decides to dive on the stripper. He smacks his head off the sort of side of the counter there, and they try to have to sort of get rid of the body, but things actually start to spiral out of control even worse. So The film itself, like I said, is billed as a comedy. Now, I know you sent a message off to myself after you were so far through the film itself, just saying that there was one scene that made you giggle.
Yeah.
It happened in the first 15 minutes. I'm not going to mention what the scene is just in case people want to go out and see it, and I don't want to spoil supposedly the only laugh in the film itself. I'll just say I know exactly the scene you were referring to, and I didn't laugh at it. I just thought I was just silly. But the whole film itself didn't even get a smirk out of me. There is supposed to be chemistry between each one of the girls on display, and there's nothing there. It doesn't feel like they are actually friends. It just feels like they've picked 4 people from different places in America, just push them together and go, yep, go on, you're friends. And that's it. There is no connection between them, even though 2 of them were in a relationship with each other. There just doesn't seem to be anything there. It's just like they were there for a party. When it does get a little bit more serious and a few drama elements start to happen in the film itself, it's not believable at all. It just feels like the director has just added into there, so there's a little bit of bickering to add something serious to a comedy that's not even a comedy. Even when you introduce Kate McKinnon's character, which I do think she has potential to elevate a film. I think she was the best thing in the Ghostbusters movie. It just doesn't seem to. She doesn't seem to kickstart the film at all, no matter what the attempt to do. It also feels way too long. When I was watching the film itself, I could have swore that I was pretty much near to the end of it, and I had another 25 minutes to go. And it just drags its feet so badly into the dirt that it's just not funny. It tries to go down every single route of comedy, the serious side, the gross out side, everything. And it just feels on everything it attempts to do. It's really unfunny. It's not one of those that's going to affect my worst list. It's just going to be completely forgettable.
It is a really bad film, and the reason it's really bad, it is basically just a remake of Very Bad Things, but done with a female cast. But the problem is then what it does is that it takes that premise and then it just doesn't have the guts to go through and finish it, and it literally wimps out halfway through the film. And you have moments where the characters are sitting around just talking and doing stuff, and you're literally sitting there going, "Why are they doing this? Don't do something? Don't just be stupid sitting there and doing that and talking." And it's characters don't behave in rational or even irrational ways, in ways that make any sense for the situation, the predicament. You have this plot then that comes in to do with things that I'm not going to say what it is, but it's really just a cop out again. And the funny thing is this was released in the same year we've had Girls Trip. Now I swear, have you seen Girls Trip? You haven't seen it, have
Nope.
you? No. There is moments early on where it's a very similar setup of the girls coming together and meeting. I swear the scene at the airport is, you could probably put it side by side, and exactly the same thing of them, 2 of them sitting there and the others come up, and then they all get together and it's chatting, and I'm sure there's even some of the same dialogues in between them, and I sat there and going, hang on a minute, I was having like deja vu of having watched it in the other film, and it's horrible, this film. Oh, sorry. It's awful. It's a mess. It doesn't come together. And it's even got then this added subplot of Scarlett Johannsen's fiance driving across and wearing a nappy for some God knows reason why they decided to do this. And they add in this whole thing of, he's got to get there across as quick as he can, and he gets stuck and has a problem and has to do things, and
yeah,
really?
I didn't even want to mention the whole nappy subplot played by Paul W. Downs, who plays Peter, Scarlett Johansson's Jess's other half in the film itself, because it's the way the director thinks that she's doing it is she's reversing it around, because normally the films are about 4 more or less male characters who end up going leering at strippers and all that kind of stuff, and the female characters are just languishing at home and worrying about what their other half is actually doing. So the director's gone and flipped it around and make the female ones layering at strippers and done something bad and taking drugs and drinking, and the male characters are wine tasting and acting like girls.
Yeah, did you not find that very much? It seemed as if they were trying to do like a male metrosexual stereotype thing there, which it was very weird. Was it not weird? Very weirdly toned.
The feeling I got from it was the fact that I was watching 2 separate films, like 2 separate comedies on that front there, because it was the comedies with the girls, and then the male characters were made out to be very homosexual in a way.
Yeah.
But like a very metrosexual kind of input to them.
Very weird.
You just watch them and you think, yeah, there's nowhere, like, for example, Peter is in a relationship with Jess the way he's acting at this wine tasting and then wearing a nappy and drinking lots of Red Bull and getting accosted at gas stations for drugs and other things. Just avoid it. Just avoid it.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, we're going to take a break, after which we'll be back with this week's home releases, so stick around for that. Be back in a moment.
You know, if you're lonely and you want to feel like you're having some interaction, social interaction.
I think if you want to have some interaction whilst you're listening to the podcast as well, that's okay. Because it's fine. We would work well as a background podcast. Sort of mood podcast. We're like the podcast equivalent of Barry White. So check out the movie show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter. Check out John's show as well, Waxing Cinematic. Give him a follow on Twitter and just tell him what you've watched and what you haven't watched, and more importantly, what films you've watched, so we can talk about them in the next podcast. So let's get back to the Monday movie show.
Thank you very much for doing the countdown now, because you probably didn't even realise that I was the one who was in charge of this part of the show.
No,
but it's a good job that
you could hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it, but it's still, I'm so used to that countdown that it's annoying when it doesn't happen.
Okay, I will note that for future clips then, sorry.
Good. We are into the home release section on this week's show, and again, the reason why we call it the home release section now is because we have a Netflix film involved on this week's show, like pretty much every single week from now on in, because they seem to be releasing new films on that service made by Netflix. As a matter of fact, there was a chance we could have even reviewed The Hitman Bodyguard in this section here, because it's been released in Japan on Netflix, which was I didn't even know that was going to be the case, but that's how they're getting it now. But we don't review Japanese films. We're reviewing these films, though, in the home release section.
You could have set me up with that perfectly and given me time to find something phonetically to say in Japanese then.
Well, if you want to find something phonetically to say into Japanese, you can.
No. Too late now.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah, but something, I mean, that's not just a typical thing like that. But yeah, we've got Jessica Chastain stars in another true story events adapted with the Zookeeper's wife. We have a family kind of drama thing around a dog, centering a dog main character with A Dog's Purpose. We have a small thriller with Noomi Rapace in Unlocked. And then we have it's not a comedy, but it may have been billed as a comedy by mistake or something, but it's a weird thriller. It's, you know, it wants to be the new Fatal Attraction film. Will it be? Is it be? We'll see when we get to it with Unforgettable. And then we have, as you said, a Netflix release with Death Note.
Yeah, which, by the way, we've had a couple of tweets retweeted from Adam Wingate, the director of Death Note, which has made me a happy little bunny because I do really like him as a director, and just because the fact that he has been receiving death threats, which is absolutely moronic, to say the least. But he's got one of those really thick skins. If you look at his Twitter feed, the way he actually defends everything that he does is fantastic. So at least he's got that kind of thick skin rather than just him having a cry and then switching off his Twitter like some actors and actresses do. Anywho, on top of that, we have our TV movie of the week and our overall movie of the week, but it is the Blu-ray and DVD chart that we're looking at right at this moment. Yeah. Now, I think there is a film that I'm missing out because we couldn't have reviewed only 3 films on last week's show. But when I looked over the chart...
I'm looking at the chart, I'm surprised at a couple of them, the position where they went in.
Yeah, it was just when I was setting up the chart itself, I could only find like 3 new entries which we reviewed on last week's show, and I could swear that we reviewed at least 4 films, and I couldn't remember what the last one was, so...
I can't remember now either.
Yeah. But those movies I've mentioned anyway, which are outside the top 10, is the Belko Experiment of 51.
I can't believe that went in. I mean, not that I think it really needs to go in a lot higher, but I'm surprised it didn't crack 50. I'm really surprised by that.
And Lady Macbeth at 38.
Yeah, which I'm disappointed by. I wish it would have gone in higher. I mean, I know it's a hard sell to people that probably wouldn't be into that kind of thing, but it's a really good, solidly directed, solidly acted film that I'm kind of disappointed it's not gotten more recognition.
Yeah, so we'll get into the top 10 then.
Yeah, one at number 10, which I don't think we've seen because I didn't get a chance to. I was going to try to see this week, is Guardians, the Russian superhero film.
Yeah, I really wanted to see it as well, as you've indicated there. It's the Russian superhero film, very much in the guise of a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, hence why the name is Guardians. There was trailers floating around quite a few years ago. It's got the same kind of tone as the film Iron Sky. There is a sequel to Iron Sky coming out. Now, Iron Sky, if you don't know it, is just the Germans on the moon film. It's a very tongue-in-cheek science fiction film. And this is from Russia about a group of superheroes trying to stop bad guys. And I want to watch it because I'm intrigued by it, rather than me wanting to watch it because I want to watch it. It's supposed to be a very big budget Russian film, but it was thrown out on Blu-ray and DVD over in this country because I don't think there was a distributor to release it in cinemas.
Number 9 is Going in Style,
which I've not seen.
Yeah, it's a remake. It didn't need to happen. It's perfectly charming and fine to watch with the three leads: Alan Arkin, Michael Caine, and Morgan Freeman. But it's nothing exceptional. It is kind of shame. It's a shame, kind of typically Zach Braff directing. It's a very kind of average. It's below his average of what he should have been. I mean, Garden State's a fantastic film that he did, which I really thought was brilliant. And it's not really. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's not anything exceptional. It's not bad, but it's just kind of meh film, in a good way. Number 8, Smurfs: The Lost Village.
Yeah, it's for anybody below the age of 8. It knows its audience. It never tries to actually go above that audience there by throwing in adult jokes there, as it is just specifically aimed at younger kids. It's bright, it's colourful, it's brash, and it'll entertain them for the 90 minutes that it's on for.
Logan is at number 7.
Which we've said absolutely everything we can about Logan a million times over, so we're not even going to bother.
Kong Skull Island's at number 6. I wouldn't bother saying anything more about that, to be honest. But
yeah, it's okay. It should have been better.
Okay. The live action Ghost in the Shell was at number 5.
Yeah, as we mentioned at the start of this week's show, regarding the whitewashing controversial things that are happening with the Hellboy film, the same kind of thing happened with Ghost in the Shell when they cast Scarlet Johannsen in the form of Major, when in fact it's an Asian character in the source material. But like I said, this Ghost in the Shell was sort of like a reimagining of the Ghost in the Shell mythos rather than a remake of the original anime, because the original anime / manga. And so the director knew that. And it just annoys the heck out of me when they just throw the racist card in the ring because the original characters were not sort of like portrayed exactly the way they are in the sort of like reboot. It's annoying. It's better film than I thought it would be, so I had really low expectations of it. So at least it met those expectations a little bit more. So, but it's not an exceptional film, but it's still very watchable.
Yeah, Moana's skipping number 4. Sorry, Beauty and the Beast, the live action version.
You might 4. As well. We've said everything we can about Beauty and the Beast.
So Moana at number 3.
Same with Moana as well.
Yeah. The Boss Babies at number 2.
Yeah, it's okay. It's nothing better than okay. It'll entertain younger audiences because there's a few funny little moments in there for them there, but it's nothing special.
Which means new entry at number 1 for Their Finest,
which I really liked. It's a very, very British film, but not in a bad way. It's a movie that I felt really comfortable and really sort of like... It's the kind of... When you look outside and it's raining outside and you want to watch a film that feels like a warm hug in a way, this is what Their Finest is like. It's very British, but in a nice manner. Very well acted. Gemma Arterton is fantastic in the film as well. So is Sam Claflin. He's really good in the film as well. And just everybody involved is just brilliant. Bill Nighy steals the show. As usual, Bill Nighy is just fantastic in pretty much every single character that he plays. We're reviewing his new film, which is out next week, called The Limehouse Golem, which is a case that's centered before Jack the Ripper. But yeah, I really, really like Their Finest.
Yeah.
So that's it for the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. So we'll move straight on to the first review in the home release section with Zookeeper's Wife, directed by Nicky Caro, who did Wheel Rider about 10 years-ish ago in that area there, which was
more than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is a film which is sort of like centric on the relationship between human and animal. And so that's what she's gone and done with The Zookeeper's Wife. It's based on source material, which I haven't got the name of the writer written down. But it stars Jessica Chastain, who plays Antonia Zabinski, and she lives with her husband, played by Johan Heldenberg, who's a Finnish actor. It's just interesting that the film itself is set in Poland. It's got an American actress with a Finnish actor, And then it's got Daniel Bruhl thrown into there, who's a German actor, directed by an Australian director.
Wow, whitewashing, terrible.
Yeah, lots of I think she was actually trying to cover as many bases as she possibly could. So it's set in there.
No Polish actors.
No Polish actors. Finnish, American, German, Australian director, but no Polish.
People up in arms about this. No, okay.
Exactly. So it's in 1939 during World War II. The Germans are sort of like getting ready to invade Poland, and Antonia Zabinski, like I said, who's played by Jessica Chastain, lives with her husband and son in a zoo that they've established there with all the creatures there. They open up every day for everybody to actually come and visit it. Then Daniel Bruhl's character is thrown into the mix, and he decides to say that the only way you can rescue these animals is if we manage to take them and relocate them somewhere else, but we will bring them back. There are ulterior motives behind that because the Germans are now invading Poland itself, and so turning everything on its head, to be honest. The animals, they'll either get slaughtered or moved out there, and then life starts to become even more hard to live because you've got the people who get put into concentration camps, you've got the Jewish people who were trying to find homes, and Antonia Zabinski comes up with an idea to try and house them under the noses of the Germans themselves, all the while trying to survive herself. Here's a clip.
I see a way out of this, my friend. That's why I've come. You need to listen to me now. You need to trust me. Now, I could take your prize animals to Germany as a loan. We give them sanctuary. You know you can trust my word on this. And when the war is over, I can return them to you.
But what if the war comes to Germany?
A terrible thought, I know. And a personal nightmare for me, but I must tell you, the Allied forces are very weak. I expect this to be over very soon. I want to rescue the best of your breeds. And I can secure them a future no matter what might come. And we can do this together, Frau Zabinska. We can save your animals together. What do you think?
Yes. Of course, we must do it.
I'll bring trucks as soon as I can. Your animals will be fine. I give you my word.
So the film itself is an interesting dichotomy between how animals are treated and how humans are treated. So in the first 15-20 minutes of the film itself, it focused specifically on the animals themselves. Antonia, she just had this attraction to the animals, pretty much treating them like a child. There is a scene in the first 10 minutes of the film itself where she's got a son and she's also got a pet there as well, so that she pretty much treats them both exactly the same. Then with the German invasion happening and the animals having to be slaughtered or taken out there, the animals are then completely forgotten about, and then it's all centers around her trying to house these 300 Jews under the Germans' noses and how she's actually managed to handle that kind of thing. And so the last, I would say, good 2/3 of the film is the human element. The thing with the way Nikki Caro directs it is I think she's more interested in the animal side of things than the human element, because the film becomes less interesting when it does center around her housing the Jews rather than her looking after the animals. And I think the film should have just been all about this zoo trying to survive during an invasion of the Germans in Poland. Now, only 5% of the entire Polish population pretty much survived during the onslaught of the Germans, and then the Russians attacked Poland as well, pretty much straight after the Germans did that. So there was very few people left in Poland that were Polish during the Second World War. And I think the film would have been much more interested if it was animal-centric, because when it does get into the human side of things, it just loses its focus. It just becomes drab, dull, boring, and lifeless, which is annoying. Jessica Chastain, she's doing a very strange accent. It's too soft. There is nothing in that accent there which brings it to the forefront. When you hear the dialogue being spoken, you're actually squinting a little bit to try and hear what she's saying, because Daniel Bruhl has got a very ever-presence in everything that he does, and his voice is front and center during every single conversation. And it just makes their conversations very one-sided. Jona Heldenberg, who plays her husband, again, he's got much more of an apparent voice. And it's just annoying because there's more than just them involved there. It's all supposed to be about the Zabinskis. when in fact, when Daniel Brühl's on screen, you concentrate more on him. So the film just lost me when it became more of the drama regarding the Jews compared to the animals, and I wanted to go back to the animal side of things. It's just the director hasn't a clue on how to meld them together properly enough.
I can't disagree with that. I did think it was a film that felt very long, especially the last hour of it, stretched out incredibly. I did find that I don't know how much of it is based on true events, because it was obviously set in the Polish zoo and the things that happened there. But some things in it just felt a bit kind of like it was. It went off on this whole thing of you have Daniel Brühl's character who's obsessed with trying to bring back this dead breed of the bison and stuff, and it felt very much like kind of it just didn't need to be there so much, or it could have been just more of a background thing and not a foreground thing, sort of thing, not so forefront.
It has problems also with jumping time frames. Like, you're never sure of how far it's actually gone until in a few moments in the film itself, where you've got on the bottom of the screen saying 1 year later or a few years later. It's just the way the film is actually put together in the drama side of things and the human element. It just you're not sure of the time frames themselves. It doesn't seem to gel properly. Like, she shot them out of sync, and then she's tried to piece them together, but not sure how to piece them together properly.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep, on to A Dog's Purpose. It's directed by Lasse Hallström, so it's him kind of going back to animals again, and to dogs especially, as he's done before in things like Hachi, the American version of the Japanese true story about the dog that waited at the train station for its master after its master had passed away. And it's a film that is focusing though on a dog with a dog as the main character. And the thing of that it's the dog is voiced in voiceover by Josh Gad, who, as we're introduced to him at the very beginning, as a young pup, we hear him do voiceover, and he then is raised by a young boy playing a character of Ethan. Very much raises him and gives him the name Bailey. He then is going through his life and doing things. I mean, and then at one point you have a scene in this where the scene we play a clip from just now is that they're at home. His father is not the biggest fan of the dog, although Ethan has been allowed to keep him. And the problem is that Bailey has eaten one of his coins from his collection, which, as you'll hear in this clip, may potentially be a problem.
Are you still collecting coins?
Oh, sure.
What's your showpiece?
1907, St. Gaudens Golden Eagle.
Oh, well, Herman, I don't know anything about coins, but I know that is special.
That is a treasure. I have never seen one up close before.
It's quite a coin.
That's a beauty. I'll show you. I'll go get it.
Well, maybe after dinner.
I'm gonna go get it later.
May I please be excused?
Huh?
May I please be excused? I need to take Bailey out for a walk.
Sure, honey.
Come on, do it. Please, Bailey. Please, Bailey, do it. Come on.
What does he want from me?
Come on.
I really wish I knew what he was saying.
Go! Come on! It's your problem. Come on!
I don't know why he was so upset, but it made me anxious, and when I'm anxious, things kind of move super fast. This was a first. I'd never seen him so happy to clean up after me.
Yes! Found it!
So you have the whole film of it that you would think is all about this boy and his dog. And it is, as things revealed later on, which I don't want to get into spoilers, but the weird thing is that the film then follows as Bailey gets old, passes away, and then is reborn into another dog. And it has several stories that go along like this, which is the really odd and weird thing about it. But the thing is, it's oddly charming, and the surprising thing is that how connective the voiceover of Josh Gad is, and how emotional it manages to make the connection with the audience. And I was watching this, and all the way through it, and a couple of points I found myself welling up more than a couple of points, and I found myself genuinely crying in a couple of points because it really got me. It just really got me. I think that it's not by any means an outstanding film, but it's a film that it definitely has the emotional connection there. I think it's really well done in that regards. I think there's some moments in it which it doesn't need to be. There's this whole thing of the sort of teen Ethan as he's going potentially going out with this girl that he's into, and the dog is there, and it's the whole thing of the very cliched thing of the dog is what sort of makes the connection sort of happen. I found those sort of things kind of, I was like going, yeah, okay, do we need this? Kind of skip just this past this bit, but then at other crucial points and in other lives, I found it really just interesting, and I thought there's some real kind of chemistry with the dog, with the performance of the dogs that Lasse Hallström has managed to get and put on the screen. That it's a film that it got me, and I don't mind saying that.
Yeah, I don't think it's as strong as Hachi, A Dog's Life, because I think that film itself is, I think, Lasse Hallström's best film. But this is one of those ones where you watch the trailer and think, oh, it's going to be really sickly. It's going to be like We Built a Zoo or something of that ilk there. And it never becomes like that. Yes, it's interconnected stories, but each one works thanks to the voice of Josh Gad and thanks to the direction of Lasse Hallström, because he understands how to direct actors with animals. And yeah, I have to agree with you on that front there as well. I found myself welling up when I watched the film. I don't mind admitting to that, because I've been both a cat owner and a dog owner. And I miss owning dogs myself. I'm not allowed pets. My council will not allow me to have any animals in where I live at the moment, which really annoys me, because I would love that companionship when you do come home and you get the dog or the cat just charging towards you there to greet you. And I miss that kind of thing, and so that's maybe the reason why it affected me the way it did. So I know if
I'm not a dog lover. I don't like dogs. I genuinely don't. We have cats. I prefer cats. I'm not a dog person, and this film still get me.
But I know on my purpose as well that if my mum watched this, she would be in absolute floods of tears. And so if she saw me watching her in absolute floods of tears, she would probably say, stop taking the mickey out of me. And I'm looking at that going, actually, you know what? I'm not. I'm in agreement with you on this front here. So yeah, I actually quite liked it. It's a very, very charming film, A Dog's Purpose. Unlike Unlocked. It's directed by Michael Apt. It's a thriller. It's a very chocolate box kind of thriller. Noomi Rapace plays Alice Rinsing, who's sort of like, she's embroiled in a plot where everybody seems to be against her. Thrown in the mix there, you've got Michael Douglas and Toni Collette, Orlando Bland, and John Malkovich as well. It's just, like I said, it's just a very basic thriller where she discovers something bad is going to happen regarding a biological attack that's going to happen on London, and it's up to her to try and stop it with the help of a few people, supposedly anyway. Here's a clip.
Bad idea shedding me. I heard too much.
An unknown variable now.
Tactically, it's a no-brainer.
You really want me around. I'm useful. And I like trouble.
Goodbye.
You saying the stakes aren't high enough?
Oh, they are high enough.
Well then, I can help you.
I've had my trouble since the war. Clearly not so well adjusted. But I'm combat tested. And right now, I'm thinking I'm the only friend you got.
Yeah, and you've got to believe he's combat-tastic. That's exactly what it sounds like he's saying. I'm combat-tastic when he's saying I'm combat-tested. The film, to say it's questionable is an understatement. The film itself it's not awful, because it could have ended up being absolutely atrocious. It's atrocious when Orlando Bloom is on screen. It's really badly created on that front there. And I think the director was given the chance to work alongside actors like Noomi Rapace and Toni Collette and Michael Douglas as well, and John Malkovich, and thought, I've got this fantastic cast here. How am I going to use them? I haven't a clue how I'm going to use them. And I think he's scared. He's just absolutely scared of his own film. No matter what Noomi Rapace does, she can't help save the film, even though she's the strongest thing in the film itself. I also think Toni Collette is also one of the stronger elements of the film. She looks a lot like Annie Lennox.
She's definitely a lot stronger in this than she was in Triple X3.
Yeah. So she is necessary to the film itself. So the female side of the film actually works. The male side of the films feel miserably. But so the film itself is not as awful I was expecting it to be, and a lot of critics did absolutely lace into it. It's just, again, it's one of those really forgettable films. Like Rough Night, it's not going to affect my worst films of the year list. I'm just going to forget it when I look over the list itself because it's just completely forgettable.
And predictable.
Yeah, and stupidly predictable.
Yeah.
The twists, it thinks it's smart with the twists when in fact you predicted it 5 minutes into the film. Because you know that there's going to be twists in the film, and you go, that's going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. You've got a score sheet down, and if you were playing a drinking game, you'll be dead.
Right, I'm going to go over very quickly on Unforgettable, because it's not. It is completely forgettable. It's a film, I would literally just say completely forgettable. That's it. I can't really say anything more about it because I didn't like it, and I thought it was completely forgettable. But no, I don't have a clip for it, but it is a film that wants to be the new Fatal Attraction and fails miserably. You have Rosario Dawson is engaged to the man of her dreams, played by Jeff Stoltz. He is a divorced man who has his ex, played by Kathryn Bigelow, who, as many people will know, is my nemesis. And it's this whole thing that he has him and Kathryn Bigelow's character have a daughter between them, so there's that sort of lingering connection between the two where she's always around and such. And they move. Rosario Dawson moves in with her fiance, and they get married, and they end up living sort of nearby, obviously, so that things are all connected. And lo and behold, Kathryn Bigelow's character, when she sees them getting married and everything, and she has this kind of thing where she sort of snaps and starts doing things and starts manipulating things, and you can guess where it goes from there. It's terrible. It's directed by Denise Denova, who is, I don't know who she is, but it's very humdrum, and it wants to be, like I say, Fatal Attraction doesn't have the tension to it at all. Towards the end, right near the end, when there's a little bit of a confrontation, it actually kind of picks up a bit. But by that point, you're just sitting there going, please end, just end. I want this to end. I was saying that after about 20 minutes of the film, and I could not wait for it to be over because it was just, ugh.
We'll move on to the final film then. Death Note. It's directed by Adam Wingate. It is a Netflix film. It is a reboot or remake, reimagining of the Japanese source material in multiple forms. The Japanese source material is in book form, it's in sort of like comic strip form as well, in manga, and it's also in anime and live action. There's been a few live action Japanese films regarding Death Note. So this is the American version of this. It stars Nate Wolff, who plays Light Turner. He's a very, very bright student at school. He is found to have lots of maths papers in his bag, and he gets put into detention. Prior to that, though, he's involved in a fight regarding Margaret Qualley's character, who plays Mia, and also the bully at school. And so when out on the outsides of the school one day during a rainstorm, a book lands into his grasps. It's got Death Note written on the book itself, and he discovers that by writing somebody's name into it, but he needs to actually know the person's face, needs to know what they look like, he needs to know their name, he's able to actually write in how they would die. As soon as that's done, closes the book itself, that happens because of the character voiced and played by Willem Dafoe, who plays Ryuk, who's sort of like the god of death on this frontier. He's able to actually strike that bargain that this name will end up dying in the form that he's doing it. So Nate takes this under control, and he writes people's names in the book and tries to stop these really horrible, nefarious, nasty people from committing crimes by killing them. On his tours, though, you've got Lakeith Stanfield's character, who plays Elle, who's a detective of sorts, brought in to try and investigate these spate of murders to find out who the killer is, and he thinks that it is Light Turner who's responsible. Here's a clip.
Hello, Light. Oh, you're the guy. You're L.
Well, that's not my real name, but I'm sure you're painfully aware of that.
What are you doing here?
Follow the lead. You?
I'm leaving.
I wonder if it was a difficult decision.
What was a difficult decision?
Sparing your father's life.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Well, you must have known it would implicate you, yet you couldn't bring yourself to do it. I'll admit, I always wondered if you had a line. I guess it's fortunate for us, the line you finally decided to draw points so clearly in your direction.
Yeah, I thought I edited that bit out, but my bad. No. Anyway, the thing with
your fault this time.
Yeah, but it's just I didn't realize it was that extended because it actually goes silent for like 15-20 seconds after that, to be honest, and I edited that part out, but I didn't check that last little bit there. Now, the thing with Death Note...
job, Stuart. One job.
Shut up. The thing with Death Note itself, it understands its boundaries because when you've finished watching the film, you think to yourself, this would not have worked if it was released in the cinemas. It's not, the scope itself is not big enough for it to work in cinemas, and I think that's how Adam Wingard intentionally wanted to create the film itself. As I said, he has been getting a lot of hate on Twitter and on Facebook, death threats as well regarding the film itself. And one person I've seen on his Twitter timeline sent him a question because he's been nicely answering pretty much everybody's questions as well, which is fantastic for a director to do that. He has no responsibility to do that, but he has been. And one person said, has anything changed from the original idea that you have to when Netflix bought it? And he turned around and went, no. So at least he actually stuck to his guns itself, because the film itself is not big enough to work in the theatrical sense. It works brilliantly at home, but it doesn't work on the theatrical scene, and it's not released in cinemas. It's just released on Netflix in the home. It is got lots of gore in it, unlike the Japanese version of it, because the Japanese version of it is quite tame, considering that it is all about death. The first couple of films were actually rated 12 when released on DVD in the UK, so they're quite tame. Then they got up to a 15. This is rated 18. I can't see where the 18 comes from. There is a few gory moments in it, but it's very 15-centric on that front there. But it's a Netflix one, so the BBFC don't have any authority when rating the film unless it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD. It's self-rated by Netflix themselves. The film itself is entertaining. I think Nate Wolff as Light Turner is okay. It's just there is a few scenes where you do laugh at the film rather than take it serious like it should be. There is one scene where he is getting chased by L. Light is getting chased by L himself, and he's running like a girl. No offense to girls, but his legs are flailing all over the place and he's falling all over the place and all that kind of stuff. And it's questionable on that front there. And so I was laughing at that rather than being serious. But it quenched my bloodthirst. It's gory where it should be. I think Willem Dafoe as Ryuk is fantastic. He's got that malevolent, grainy tone to his voice to be able to bring it across Ryuk. And I think it's really well animated as well. I think they use sort of like practical effects rather than over CGI'd it, and a lot of it is practical as well, apart from one scene involving a Ferris wheel, which is CGI'd. But overall, I enjoyed the film. It's entertaining for the 90 minutes that it's on for, and it suits itself at home, and I'm glad it wasn't released in cinemas.
Yeah,
and that's it for this.
Surprising the crazy amount of hate it's been getting.
Yeah, too much. It's ridiculous. A lot of people. Just watch the film. If you don't like the film, you don't have to go onto Twitter and death threats sent to the director and actors involved. Stop doing that. What's the point? You're just showing yourself to be an absolute idiot rather than having something constructive to see it. If you've got negative reactions to the film itself and you've got something to back up those negative reactions, fine. Then at least you've got something to back them up. You're rather than just going, you're a director who's made a horrible film, I wish you would hang yourself. It's just absolutely moronic. And as I said, that is the last film we're looking at on this week's show, new-wise. We'll go into TV movies of the week.
I've got a bunch of them written down.
Same.
But because I mean, it's been quite a busy couple of weeks for TV movies, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Shaun of the Dead is on ITV2 tomorrow night, Tuesday the 29th of August at 9 o'clock. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is on More 4 the same time, Tuesday 29th at 9 o'clock. Captain America: The First Avengers on Film 4 Wednesday the 30th at 9 o'clock. Existenz is on the Horror Channel on Wednesday the 30th at 12:40 a.m. so 12:40 midnight, so Thursday morning, which is a film that I really do enjoy. It's a really weird film. It's, you know, Cronenberg, so of course what do you expect, but it's one of his that I really do enjoy. And there's the double bill of the Predator films on the Thursday the 31st on Film 4. The first one's at 10:45, and then after it at 12:50 a.m. so that night is Predator 2, and I think that's a good double bill. I mean, Predator is one of those films that stood the test of time and looks as good now as it did back then in the 80s. But my choice of the movies of the week, my TV movie of the week, well, the two actually on Sunday. My choice is the second one, but I should say as well, Toy Story 3 is on BBC One on Sunday the 3rd at 5 o'clock. But my choice to the TV movie of the week is Inception, which is on ITV2 on Sunday the 3rd at 7 o'clock. It's probably going to be edited in some form then, but it's Inception, which is a fantastic film, and if you've not seen it, then where have you been?
It's a 12, so it won't be. They're allowed to show
it might be.
They're allowed to show 12 rated films after 6 o'clock, 15 rated films after 8, and 18 rated films after 10.
I think it depends on some of the things in it.
It should be fine. I don't think it'll be edited. Just a couple of films to add to that list before I reveal my overall movie of the week, TV movie of the week, sorry. Role Models is on Friday, the 1st of September at 11:15 on 5 Star. It's a comedy that actually made me laugh. It was during the time when there's very few comedies that make me laugh now, but it was during the time when there was just absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden Role Models came out, and then 21 Jump Street came out. So it was a nice couple of months where we got a few comedy films where they actually worked. So yeah, it made me giggle that. On Saturday the 2nd at 5:40 p.m. on BBC One, it's Wallace and Gromit: The Wrong Trousers. I love it. It's only on for half an hour, but it's still classified as a movie in a way. So it's a short film, but I love Wallace and Gromit. And definitely
a Grand Day Out more. The bit with the drill just kills me every time.
But still, though, it's a perfect thing to watch while you're nomming on some food on Saturday at tea time. Because there's no football on this weekend, so it's perfect for that anyway. On Saturday, also the 2nd, on Film 4 at 9 p.m, you've got Prisoners. Very long film, but definitely worth a watch. Denis Villeneuve, it's one of his earlier films, and definitely worth a watch. Hard watching sometimes, but some fantastic acting on that front there. But my overall TV movie of the week is a movie. It's a remake, but it got absolutely blasted by people. But I really like it. It's on BBC Two on Sunday the 3rd at 11 p.m. It's Matt Reeves' version of Let Me In, or Matt Reeves' version of Let the Right One In. So Let Me In, starring Cody Smith-McPhee and Chloe Grace Moretz. I think he did his idea of what Let the Right One In is, and I think he handled it fantastically. It's tense, it's dark, it's brooding. The setting is perfectly executed. He's a fantastic director anyway, Matt Reeves, but highly recommend Let Me In. BBC Two, Sunday the 3rd at 11 p.m. And that's it for this week's show. Make sure, I was going to say you check out the website, but the last time it was updated was when A Dog's Purpose was out in the cinema. And we've gone and reviewed it on Blu-ray and DVD. So yeah, it's been that long ago. I now put a post up on Facebook a few hours before the show is about to start, giving you an indication of what is on the show, and then a couple of posters regarding the films itself. That does change when I'm working really dodgy hours, but mainly keep an eye on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, or on our Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Andrew's on there at HDVD, and I'm on there at Cryptic Tadpole. Also follow InTheNerd.com, where the show can be found as well, thanks to Mark putting the show up there now every single week, and also from Page 2 Screen. From page2screen.com. Stuart is at Sci-Fi Wheels over the weekend, so I doubt you'll actually see very much from him over the next few days because he's hosting panels there, and he'll brag a lot about that. He's got his few film projects that he's been involved in that he's created himself, conversations with, which you can find on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter At From Page to Screen, you'll be able to actually find out what there are. And I said to a friend, he is starting up a business. I thought I'd give him a little bit of a hand. He's on his ASOS page. It's called Urban Vintage. If you want to buy some clothes, head over to there as well. Give him a bit of a hand. I just thought I'd give him a bit of a mention because I'm nice. So what is your overall movie of the week before we disappear?
You're probably going to disagree with me on this, but it's Logan Lucky.
And I'm probably going to go with... I'll stay with the home release stuff. Watch Death Note on Netflix to prove these haters wrong, but also watch A Dog's Purpose if you want to cry.
If you want to cry, yeah.
If you want to just shed lots of tears. And that's it for this week's show. We're going to play the clip of the film that we're going to review on next week's show, which is Patty Cake with the $sign and lots of other things wrong with the spelling of it. Patty, P-A-T-T-I. So we'll play you out with that clip, and until next week, goodbye.
Bye.
Lords and ladies of the royal court, bow down. The Queen is in the building. Introducing Miss Patricia Dabrowski, a.k.a. Patty Case, a.k.a. White Trish, a.k.a. Juicy Luciano, a.k.a. Marilyn Manson, a.k.a. Jane Doe, a.k.a. Killer P!
And introducing the lady's choice, the voice that gets you moist. It's gonna be an Indian summer, y'all. Mr. Jerry Curls, a.k.a. Young Stamos, a.k.a. Deepak Shakur, a.k.a. the Durag Da Vinci, a.k.a. Raw Dog Zillionaire, a.k.a. the Quiet Storm Boys and Girls. I give you my soulmate, my homie, yo. It's Jeromeo!
This isn't showtime at the Apollo, okay? We have customers here. Play make-believe on your lunch break.
Sorry, my bad.
Last warning, Harish.